drafted early. Keegan Murray as well. A Kings team, DRS, that has been a playoff contender.
Is it going to equate to a championship? Probably not. But that's not the goal. Make your team better every offseason. The Kings definitely got better with that move here, Ben.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
The WNBA is a unique market, right? It moves a little bit different. You take a bet, a limit play, even if the limit is 2 dimes on the side, you don't go from 11.5 to 12. You know what I mean? You got to go. Because if they bet you the second number, then you go, oh boy, now we have a decision that we really didn't think we got a big decision. Books love decisions.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
It is Canada. You know, Canada is one of those teams that's the darling of the tournament right now. They're still 9-1.
To win a tournament, or even to advance far into a tournament like this, you need a bit of good fortune. And it doesn't matter if you're getting the good fortune that Canada has, where they played 2 matches where they were up a man, or you had the good fortune of Argentina, who's one of the best teams in the world, who just got on the good side of the draw.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Watch out for USA and Canada in 4 years. Like cricket's going to be a sport that's growing.
I made my first cricket bet last week or over the weekend. I was getting a team that was leading like 150 to 5 plus odds. I'm like, I'm up 150 points and I'm getting plus odds. Where do I sign? I love this cricket stuff. What are you kidding me?
In-game live, prime time, only on Sport.
Welcome, everyone, into SportsGrid. This is In-Game Live. I'm Joey P. Joe P. Zapia. And normally, this hour of the morning, I tell you to get a cup of coffee, sit down with us. But we're going to be paying attention to something going on across the pond this morning on In-Game Live because it's the Wimbledon final. So perhaps a cup of tea would be a little bit more appropriate this morning. And luckily, to help me break down Wimbledon as the ladies' final about to start any moment now, is the one, the only Kasey Hudson. Kasey, thank you so much for putting down the boxes. You're in between a move right now, and you're actually going to sit down with us for a couple hours. Or maybe you should be thanking me, because moving is the worst thing. Nobody likes to move. Put the boxes down, and let's talk a little Wimbledon. Don't you think that sounds like a better way to spend the next 2 hours?
I think anybody that knows me would agree with you. Boxes are down. I get to sit down. I didn't do tea because I needed all the extra caffeine this morning, but to sit down and enjoy Wimbledon with you sounds much better than packing, taping, unpacking, and all the things. So thank you.
Well, we've got an unlikely final this morning, too. And it's been an unlikely run, too. 7 straight Wimbledon, 7 straight different winners there. It is that grass surface. It's a very, obviously, famous tournament that's been going on for many years here in the kingdom. And now it is time to crown a new champion, and a very unlikely champion either way, because these two were long shots, to say the least. Going in, Barbora Krejcikova, was actually the 100-1 setting in the beginning of this finals. And then you had Jasmine Paolini, who was actually 50-1. So if you bet either of these two ladies going into Wimbledon, you've already made a lot of money. You've done pretty well for yourself. But Krejcikova, minus 137 right now on the board. Paolini right now, plus 114. That's where we stand heading into things. So Krejcikova, Kasey, is someone that has won a final before, somebody that has won some doubles finals as well. So she's a little bit more comfortable with this stage. You look at her tail of the tape here, 28 years old, ranked 32nd in the world, 7-9 here with a singles record. But Paolini is someone that's come on of late. She was at Roland Garros, made the final there. Now she did lose there to the champion, who obviously that is her surface. So we know Swiatek was going to handle her very well, and she did. But Paolini does bring a very special energy. The Italian, 28 years old, ranked 7th in the world. Again, 50-1 odds going into Wimbledon to win. So talk me through what we're looking at right now, straight up on this money line to win. How do you see the final shaping up? And then we'll get to some of your best bets before we get to the action starting very soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you mentioned, two very unique paths here, and both extremely deserving because both of these women actually have a very similar theme to how they got to this final, making massive comebacks. They weren't rattled when things didn't go their way, potentially in first sets or probably through like the first 2 to 3 games within a set. And they were able to find ways to kind of reacclimate their game and get back into things. So, as you mentioned, Paolini, she's got energy. She's very fast. She's very reactive. She can get a little bit more creative with her game. But then when you're looking at Krejcikova, excuse me, she is somebody who has consistency. She's got massive IQ. So she can get very tactful. Not to mention is that strong serves when you're on a grass surface is extremely crucial. And that is where Krejcikova is very consistent. She's very consistent behind strong serving. She's very consistent and making sure that she delivers right at her opponent, kind of forcing them to readjust their game. So you can see a number of reasons why people are kind of in favor here of Krejcikova to kind of take a lead here, maybe even win out this final. You've seen these odds kind of change as things progress through. They're leaning on experience, which is another theme around anyone winning a Wimbledon final. But I think Paolini can kind of surprise a lot of people here. So I think we have a great final to look forward to.
Now, Krejcikova, the favorite, I think a lot of that might have to do with the fact that she defeated former Wimbledon champion Elena Rybakina earlier before to head to the finals. But Paolini does seem to also be on an upward trajectory, and you mentioned the energy level she brings there. Is there anything where potentially like she kind of grasps that crowd with that energy and somehow uses that to her favor today? Because she is a very energetic player, very emotional player, and sometimes that connectivity to the crowd can be a huge thing there and kind of feeding off of that. Do you see a circumstance where, you know, even though Krejcikova is the actual favorite here today, that Paolini maybe kind of captures the hearts of this crowd and can use that to her favor?
Yeah, you've seen it in some of her post-match interviews. The crowd's still going wild for her. She has such humility to her. Not to mention is that the fact that she's just wanting to have fun. And we kind of saw that in a lot of post-match interviews for Alcaraz as he was leading to win his first Wimbledon last year. So there's kind of a relevant theme there. But I also think that in support of the crowd with her energy, crowds just kind of get excited for those big plays because anybody who watches tennis consistently, things can get a little stale there for a second. So somebody like her just kind of pulls the fans into the game with you. And what better rally than to have people support your every movement, especially when you're as explosive and dynamic as Paolini is. So I think that that's going to help rev her up because also it's very hard to shake this girl. It's very hard to get in her head. No matter what's going on in the game, commentators, analysts have all broken down the fact that she is very unshakable. So to have a crowd supporting you when you're already so mentally strong, I think can help give her a bit of an edge there.
Yeah, and that match against Keys, too, where she was behind, it looked like she was kind of on death's door. She comes back from that, and I think that's maybe that magic where sometimes people are just on that roll. We see it in sports all the time, right? The person who gets hot, the pitcher that gets hot, the quarterback that gets hot, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, the run happens. Paolini certainly is on that run. Now, we're going to start very soon here, so I want to get to Kasey's bets here before Wimbledon officially begins. So, Kasey, walk us through what you like on the board the most that everyone can go make some money on this morning.
Yes. So, of course, opening things up, I really like an over 5.5 total aces between the pair of these 28-year-olds going for their first Wimbledon title. You got Paolini, who had 5 aces in the semis, and we knew that that was a big, big battle for her to get through. Again, another comeback situation for both of these players. So to get 5 aces in that match speaks highly. And plus, she already mentioned that she needs to pick up her serving. Then you have Krejcikova. She 4 aces. Again, I mentioned that she's a strong server, especially on grass. It's at 80% efficiency. She uses those aces to her advantage. So I think over 5.5 should be an easy steal. Then you've got Krejcikova alt set spread. This at plus 1.5. Big fan of this because all she has to do is win one set here. And with the Wimbledon final, I'm not looking at a straight set win for any of these women. I think there's going to be a bit of a battle here. I also like Krejcikova to win the second set outright. She's pushed many ties and tiebreakers in the second. Again, with that tennis IQ, that tennis IQ is going to help her kind of evaluate Paolini opening things up and make adjustments to kind of be more dominant in that second set. So I like her to take that. Also, maybe take a gander at Krejcikova to grab a point in each game. That's always going to come back down to the serve and the consistency, and her ability to win first serves sits well over 76% and has increased throughout Wimbledon consistently as well. So those are some of my favorites opening things up today.
Well, we've opened things up already. Paolini serving first here. We begin. Krejcikova is 15 love right now in this first set. We'll continue to give you updates here throughout the show, and certainly kind of break down these players too, their path to the final, which is very interesting, but also some popular parlays that are available as well. We're going to break down those when we return here after the break coming up. But also, in terms of advantage, service is one of those things that, Kasey, is so important. Who do you think has the advantage when it comes to that serve here between these two?
It's going to be Krejcikova, hands down. She's consistent on multiple surfaces, which is a hard thing to accomplish. And opening things up, you mentioned the fact that, she's got the experience. She was number 2 in the world once upon a time. Not to mention is that she's beat some of the top women and made immense rallies. And a lot of that starts with her powerful serve, not fast serve, but powerful. And sometimes it makes it really hard for her opponent to go to their favorite forehand or open up in their best stance. So that's where she's so strong, and she's very consistent when it comes to her powerful serve.
All right, we're going to hit the break. When we return, we're going to take a look at some popular parlays out there, get Kasey's take on which ones you should or maybe should not invest in, and then we'll take a look at the women's path to the final. Certainly one that was a little crooked and winding, but somehow we got here, and today there's going to be a first-time women's Wimbledon champion. We'll be right back here on SportsGrid right after this.
One of the many exciting things about joining Liv was being able to come here and play in front of a Spanish crowd, especially on a level of event and level of competition that I hadn't really yet enjoyed, right? I've been able to play events in Spain.
Here in the beautiful Valderrama, which some say is the European Augusta. It's so special. There's so much history here. There's so much Spanish history here.
Well, it has so much history behind. It's only a 50 years old club, but so much has happened through the years. I mean, we had the Ryder Cup, we had World Gold Championships, and now we have Liv. It's
very exciting, and really, if there was ever a place to get my first win, I feel like this would be the perfect week.
When this wind in this golf course is so difficult that it's equally stressful no matter when or where you're playing it. But it was fun. It's always fun to be back home and be with the home crowd. It's always a joy to have this many people with me all day. It's so much fun.
What the heck course were you playing today?
I don't know.
It's brutal out there.
It is brutal. I don't know. I just made everything I looked at, Jerry. You have those days. I suppose this was one of those days for me, so I relished it. I really enjoyed it. Every time I stood over a putt, just felt like I could make it, and you don't get days like that too often, or certainly I don't. So, I relished in it, and I managed to hit a lot of good shots as well. So it was a special day.
Welcome back, everyone, to SportsGrid. Here we are live in-game for Wimbledon women's finals. And so far, game one goes to Krejcikova, right now up 40 love in the second game. So we'll keep you up to date here. Paolini in the early going, to me, a little bit here, Kasey, looks a little, I don't want to say nervous, but a little jumpy, hitting some balls a little long here, and possibly also, as we see now, two nothing going up here in the first sets here. So let's talk about this a little bit here. What is your take out of what you've seen so far? I would say maybe the nerves for Paolini. I think she needs to settle in a little bit here. You mentioned also potentially Krejcikova early in this first one having, a little bit more of a gravitas in this situation, in this final. Is that what you're seeing unfold here so far in the early going?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you put it perfectly to mention the nerves. And one of the top things that can get your nerves really going in any kind of tennis match is when the serves are coming at you very strong. Krejcikova coming out is 100% in her first serve, which means that she's being precise. And then it goes back to that power that I mentioned. We saw a forced error a couple of times with Paolini's forehand also. So something that's been talked about throughout the tournament is her ability to respond to big serves. And she's not particularly getting that right now, which all circles back to you mentioning the nerves. So right now, Krejcikova is up at 2-0 for the games. So it's going to take Paolini a second here, but we've seen her come back. We've seen her kind of readjust her game. And that's the thing. She's going to have to force Krejcikova to kind of move a lot more. Krejcikova is really standing strong in her neutral stance, and she's forcing Paolini to play her game. So we'll see how the adjustments move forward.
Krejcikova can't let up off the gas, though, because that's the dangerous thing. Paolini loves to play the underdog. She's going to play the underdog here again. That's the worst thing you can do, is let her kind of get back into it. So stay dominant, stay on top of that. And we're going to stay on top of some of these bets, too, that we have coming up here. I want to take a look here before we get to the path that these two ladies took to get to this final, which was, again, an odd path, not one that we necessarily thought was coming. Most of the pundits and most of the handicappers did not see this being the Wimbledon women's final, but there are a few popular parlays out there. I want to talk to you about some of them. Let's bring up this first batch that we have here. Both players to win 1+ points in each of the first two games of the match, minus 320. Again, that's a very heavily juiced one. Either player to win the first set 6-3 or 6-4, minus 170. Krejcikova to win +1 points in every game, set 1 through 1, minus 125. And then Jasmine Paolini to win 1+ points in every game, set again, that is in set 1, minus 125. Anything here stick out to you as we are now well into this and now tied 30-30 here in this next game?
Yeah, the minus 125 for Krejcikova to grab a point. We're seeing her really pull in very consistent right here. We're already seeing her rack up some points. And as I mentioned with the opening frames, it's really crucial to be able to force your opponent to play your game. If it takes Paolini more time to adjust here, we can look at her to continue to pick up points. And something to also look at as the game takes place, especially if you're live betting, is that those points usually go in favor of whoever is in command of the serve. And so with Paolini opening up the serving and then it's switching back to Krejcikova, you're putting Krejcikova in a position to continue to grasp those points because her responses were strong opening things up. So I like her to be able to grab points. As for a point per player opening things up, maybe not so much. It could be worth a sprinkle because even though Krejcikova can't take her foot off the gas, we have to see Paolini kind of pull her into her game. We have to see that speed that she typically has. We have to see her first Krejcikova into the corners. And I think she can make those adjustments because she overpowered women that kind of have similar formats to Krejcikova. So maybe look at each player getting a point, but more consistently look at Krejcikova to pick up a point in each game moving through the set.
We are now 40-40 all right now in this next game. So Paolini seems to have taken a deep breath, which is good. I think anybody could have seen this coming here, that she would probably be a little nervy, and that is understandable. This is a huge stage for her. Yes, playing in the final in Roland Garros matters, I think, absolutely, but maybe some of those bad memories creeping in a little bit. But hanging with Krejcikova here, 40 all right now as we look into 2 games to none here in this first set that we are here in the women's final. Let's look at another board of potential parlays as well, see if there's anything there that we can interest our watchers and listeners in, and see what you think about them too. Both players to win 2+ points in each of the first 2 games at +115. You're getting plus money there. This is a tasty one too. Barbora Krejcikova to win the first 3 service games of the match to 15, 30, or 40, +145. Again, we're on the precipice of that. We're at advantage Krejcikova right now in this the third one. And then you also have Jasmine Paolini to win the first 3 service games of the match to 15, 30, or 40, +155. Anything here interesting to you as what you've seen so far on the court?
Yep, let's throw a dart at Krejcikova on the precipice. As you mentioned, the serves are serving. She's sitting at 100% for first serve in and plus first serve points won. So you're seeing her kind of make the grab for that first three services there as Paolini starts to kind of find her game. And as you mentioned, take that deep breath. When you mentioned the three service when it comes to Paolini, if that's heading into the second set, that's something to keep an eye on. That's where we've seen the most consistent rally for Paolini. And she mentioned heading into this matchup that her serves have to come in strong. She even kind of wared the fact that she might take a minute to get there, but she has a very fast serve, something that's not talked about quite enough. So that adjustment comes probably later on, topping into that second set there. So I wouldn't look too far away from her having a strong three service set in that second set.
Paolini is at advantage right now, trying to get on the board. We'll see if she can. Right now, she looked a little bit like she's settling in, but now we are back to 40 all here, so we'll see how that goes. One real quick here, both players to win 1+ point in every game of the match, plus 1,000. Both players to win 2+ points in each and every game set, plus 2,700. Some long shots. Anything here pique your interest, Kasey?
Probably 2+ points in a game set. That's something that we're probably going to see coming about here shortly, especially as Paolini starts to get her serving under control. If she can probably lean towards grabbing an ace here, get a fast serve going against Krejcikova, then we can see her grab a point here and probably start getting things leveled off.
Krejcikova right now at advantage with Paolini serving. We'll get you updated on how this one ends up. And we return again. We'll take a look at the path. Wimbledon women's finals right here on SportsGrid. Don't go anywhere. More action right here for you. We are home for all the wagering on Wimbledon, and we'll keep helping you when we return.
One of the many exciting things about joining Live was being able to come here and play in front of a Spanish crowd, especially on a level of event and level of competition that I hadn't really yet enjoyed, right? I've been able to play events in Spain.
Here in the beautiful Valderrama, which some say is the European Augusta, it's so special. There's so much history here. There's so much Spanish history here.
Well, it has so much history behind. It's only a 50 years old club, but so much has happened through the years. I mean, we had the Ryder Cup, we had World Gold Championships, and now we have Liv. It's
very exciting, and really, if there was ever a place to get my first win, I feel like this would be the perfect week.
This wind in this golf course is so difficult that it's equally stressful no matter when or where you're playing it. But it was fun. It's always fun to be back home and be with the home crowd. It's always a joy to have this many people supporting me all day. It's so much fun.
What the heck course were you playing today?
I don't know.
It's brutal out there.
It is brutal. I don't know. I just made everything I looked at, Jerry. You have those days. I suppose this is one of those days for me, so I really shouldn't. I really enjoyed it. Every time I stood over a putt, just felt like I could make it, and you don't get days like that too often, or certainly I don't. So yeah, I relished in it, and I managed to hit a lot of good shots as well. So it was a special day.
Welcome back, everybody, and we've got some news for you. Jasmine Paolini is on the board, is now 2-1 in the first set here. So Paolini on the board. Let's take a look at the live odds, too, and what's going on and how that is impacted by Paolini's rally there. A back and forth, going back and forth a few times between advantage and love, and eventually we do have, advantage in deuce, and eventually we do have Paolini getting on the board here. So the odds are moving a little bit. Krejcikova minus 230 to win outright. Paolini right now plus 180. And in terms of winning this first set, Krejcikova minus 170, Jasmine Paolini plus 120. Kasey Hudson, let me know what you think here of what you've seen out of Paolini in this last game, and if you think maybe there's some value here in her plus 120 in this first set.
Yeah, absolutely. So you and I kind of touched on it right before we cut over to break. How is Paolini going to get into the mix here? Well, it started with a deep breath, and then it moved forward to her coming in hot with her second serve to kind of apply some pressure over to Krejcikova. Now, the one thing that we saw too, I mentioned her trying to kind of hit her with a faster serve, make her either freeze in her neutral stance, force her into her game. And that's exactly what we saw when she came away with game 3. It's the fact that she hit her with a really fast serve. Krejcikova had a forehand error and was not able to respond. So let's see if Paolini can kind of continue to force errors, maybe start switching to her backhand, because that's not particularly her strong suit unless she starts coming in with slices. So that's what she's known for, getting creative. If she can force some serves or some rallies to Krejcikova's backhand and not allow her to come in with a backhand slice, we might start seeing more progression here for Paolini, making that plus odds more favorable.
Krejcikova bouncing back 30-15 right now in this next game. But again, Paolini still hanging in there, hanging strong. Let's take a look at these two women too and their path going through what they've done to accomplish this final here in Wimbledon. As Krejcikova, we know 20 aces, the Wimbledon stats so far, double faults 31, first serves in 314, that's a 67%. First serve points won, 226, 75%, and second serve points won, 44%. Return games won, 27. So looking at the stats here of Wimbledon for Krejcikova, what are your big takeaways? I know you mentioned about her serve being the better of the two, but what else sticks out to you here in terms of your thoughts on what she's done so far in this tournament?
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned the kind of windy paths that both of these women have had, but most importantly, Krejcikova's path was extra windy. We had to see her kind of make more comebacks, to say the least, because she had to go through a few different struggles. And of course, I've hit on a number of times the fact that her serve comes in strong, and probably those first 2 rounds, we had to see her particularly move away from relying on her serve, because it wasn't coming in as efficient. She wasn't able to kind of lead with that and grab points entirely from her serve. She had to start learning how to respond better. And that's where we kind of saw glimmers of somebody from years ago. We saw that powerful forehand that she has and the slices. She's really, really dangerous when she comes in with slices. So she was forced to rely on her response game. She was forced to kind of get a little bit more agile in those first 2 rounds there, helping her top Kurtamatova as well as volley nets. Then you head into the next round versus Marinero, which was via retirement, and then a big battle versus Danielle Collins, beating in straight sets 7-5, 6-3. And where she won out here was the fact that she was able to create and force a lot of mental errors for Collins. Collins got really shaken up. She started having a lot of misfires. She got in her head. You saw tempers flare, and you saw Krejcikova just say very even kill, which helped her to manage those straight sets. Again, down the stretch here, you see her kind of come in and continue to rally through, especially versus Ostapenko. She came back from 4-1 down in the second set, again to the backhand slices. It was a work of art to see her move through these, and then she came in strong at a 95% on first serves won. She's picking up those points on that first serve. Kind of carried that momentum into the semis, but she made a comeback because she dropped that first set. She was sitting at 0 for 4 through the first 19 minutes, but mental toughness is huge at Wimbledon, and that's where Krejcikova really comes in outside of her serve and outside of her adjustment to the game.
How much of a confidence builder was it for her to beat Rybakina to get to this final?
Oh my gosh. Well, just look at Rybakina's career right now and what she's done over the past year. When people are talking about you in kind of a past tense sense, forgetting that you've kind of made a comeback versus top 5 players throughout your entire career, that's going to be a huge chip on your shoulder. So to beat somebody like Rybakina through a 2-hour match at that, and then to bounce back from being 0 for 4 through the first 19 minutes, it's going to give you all the momentum and all the confidence. And you mentioned how key momentum is in any sport.
We are 2-1 so far, and we are in progress here at the women's final. We return, we'll get you an update, and we'll profile Jasmine Paolini and her path to the Wimbledon final.
One of the many exciting things about joining Live was being able to come here and play in front of a Spanish crowd, especially on a level of event and level of competition that I hadn't really yet enjoyed, right? I've been able to play events in Spain.
Here in the beautiful Valderrama, which some say is the European Augusta, it's so special. There's so much history here. There's so much Spanish history here.
Well, it has so much history behind. It's only a 50 years old club, but so much has happened through the years. I mean, we had the Ryder Cup, we had World Gold Championships, and now we have Live.
It's very exciting, and really, if there was ever a place to get my first win, I feel like this would be the perfect week.
I feel like when this wind in this golf course is so difficult that it's equally stressful no matter when or where you're playing it. But it was fun. It's always fun to be back home and be with the home crowd. It's always a joy to have this many people supporting me all day. It's so much fun.
What the heck course were you playing today?
I don't know.
It's brutal out there.
It is brutal. I don't know. I just made everything I looked at, Jerry. You have those days. I suppose this was one of those days for me, so I really shouldn't. I really enjoyed it. Every time I stood over a putt, just felt like I could make it, and you don't get days like that too often, or certainly I don't. So yeah, I relished in it, and I managed to hit a lot of good shots as well. So it was a special day.
Welcome back, everyone, to In Game Live. Here we are live at the Wimbledon women's final here. So far, we are at 30-30 in the fifth game here. It's 3-1 in the first set. Krejcikova over Paolini. Paolini continues to hang in there, but so far did not get the break she needed in that last game, so it goes to Krejcikova. Before we get to profile Jasmine Paolini, Kasey Hudson, let me know what you've seen out of Paolini and out of Krejcikova in this last game.
Yeah, well, we saw Paolini start to try to get a stride with her serving, but it's been very inconsistent. And this was a problem as she tried to rally out of the semis. So maybe she can mentally try to find a way to reposition herself there. And then you've got Krejcikova, who's just continuing to be consistent, picking up points on that first serve, which is going to help her to stay in control of this match. Something Paolini has done decently well, though, is kind of force a few long balls over to Krejcikova to adjust to, but she can't rely on that alone because those long balls, once again, are coming right into Krejcikova and allowing her to kind of control whether she's going to her forehand or her backhand and not forcing those miscues or misfires that are going to be important for Paolini. So we'll see how she adjusts as they work through game 5. Paolini just lost with a forehand error, so she needs to take that deep breath again and continue to power through.
And another one into the net for her as well. Krejcikova goes up 4-1 in this first set here. So the ladies are going to take a little commercial break, but we're going to keep working here. We're going to profile Jasmine Paolini and her path here to Wimbledon's women's final, because it's been, again, a very interesting journey for her. We have Jasmine Paolini, 28 years old, the Italian. She was ranked 7th in the WTA coming into this. 24-12 was her singles record. Her Wimbledon stats, a little bit different here than Krejcikova. 10 aces, 10 double faults. First serves in, 313, that's 67%. 66% on the first serve points won, that's 205. Second serve points won, 49%. And the return games won, 31. So the Wimbledon stats here for Jasmine Paolini. Kasey Hudson, what's your takeaway?
Yeah, well, her Wimbledon stats kind of show you why she's taking a little bit longer to kind of find her stride here in this matchup. When you're not coming in hot in those first serves, then you're kind of giving your opponent an upper hand there. And what's going to be nerve-wracking for Paolini is that when you're playing on that grass turf or that grass surface, the grass starts to wear. So it's going to force you to kind of change your game up because you're going to be sliding a bit more. It's going to be harder to kind of pump the brakes. It's going to be harder to kind of move from your neutral stance into your loading stance. And even though she's explosive and dynamic, that can be problematic on grass that's starting to wither. So she's going to have to start getting that momentum back that she had throughout the rounds of Wimbledon, where she was able to come in with strong responses. She was known for kind of reacting to big serves and managing it and forcing her opponent to kind of eat it back. Looking at her path through, that's kind of exactly where things started to pick up for her. Her ability to react and respond and not kind of crumble under great serving. When you're looking in that first round, she had straight sets and she had very consistent serving to open up at Wimbledon, which was promising and probably leaned towards her odds to continue to progress through. Then when you're looking at that second round, she had to punch back in her second serves. And that's where we're seeing the numbers kind of come in favor of her. If she can at least be consistent in that and force the game in her favor from her second serve, pick up some points there, then maybe we'll see things start to break a little more evenly here. Then you got her in the third round, again, straight sets. And maybe that's why at one point Paolini looked a little bit more promising. She completed a lot of these rounds in straight sets, some of them being forced to tiebreakers, but she's very hard to pull out of a game. She also has one of the longest rallies in Wimbledon throughout this tournament as well. So looking at this first set here and how games are swerving in favor of Krejcikova isn't something to hang too tight on. Then you get over to kind of these last rounds here, and her serve just started to fall off, and she was entirely relying on her response, and she cannot do that versus Krejcikova. She's got to be able to get steady in the serving column here. Like I said, she's got to force Krejcikova to move. If she doesn't get her moving across the court, if she doesn't force her to those corners, then we might be looking at a little bit different of a Wimbledon final here, because that's something that she was able to do versus some of these top opponents from the qualifier, or not qualifiers, from the quarterfinals to the semis. She was able to force them to move and pull them into her energetic level. And we're not seeing that quite yet. So we'll see where Paolini starts to make her adjustments. And hopefully that comes into her first serve and grabbing some points.
Well, in this latest game, Krejcikova looking dominant right now, up 40 love. She just actually sends that one out. So now 40-15. But Paolini on her heels a little bit here in this game. We'll keep you updated as we go. Jasmine Paolini's path to the final. Again, one that was surprising, that's for sure. Madison Keys, that's the one that everyone keeps coming back to, where she was basically on death's door and then was able to come back from that one. So walk me through the opponents here and how she ended up getting to this final, including beating Vecek there at 2-1 in the semis.
Absolutely. Well, as I mentioned, kind of those straight set wins, when you're able to pull out of a first round in straight sets and showing that you've kind of completely commanded the game, that's going to put a chip on your shoulder. That's going to give you that level of confidence. But she had an extremely well-rounded game in that first round. She was able to come up efficiently in her first serves. She was able to follow through on her second serves. But most importantly, Paolini, it's really important in Wimbledon to be able to have a strong game at the net. And because of her speed, some of the balls that she was sending over, she was able to kind of have a strong offensive game at the net and force her opponents to not be able to move and respond as quickly. That's what we saw in the first two rounds versus Tormel and Menon. Now, in that second round, even though she had straight sets again, she fully relied on her second serve to kind of start picking up those points. She wasn't particularly needing to come up big with her forehand and her backhand. She had that strong second serve. Then she pushed her opponent to the net and made it a volley game where she was just kind of masterminding things at the net. Things kind of changed a little bit, but as I mentioned, she's a creative player, so she can kind of adjust and play a few different games here, which is why I think that it's still hopeful to see how things pull off versus Krejcikova going forward. But then you see somebody who came in and had a strong tiebreak win. Then you carry that momentum into the next round versus Keys, as you mentioned. She was on death's door, but she had that confidence of knowing that she can make the rally, make the comeback, make the adjustments. After dropping that second set, we saw her make those quick adjustments that she needed to do and get back into a strong serving set and start to force Keys to play her game, meet her at the net, play at those corners, and she was forced to play and respond to a lot of fast balls. I mentioned the fact that Paolini has a fast serve, but sometimes her forehand comes in very quick as well, creating those long shots and those deep balls that are hard to go to, and that's where her and Keys really battled it out. Emily Navarro, she's a really, really, really interesting person to watch going along. Another straight set win for her, but it was Paolini's movements. It was the fact that she was all over the court and she was so consistent in moving from corner to corner. You can't catch her kind of being stale with her foot movement whatsoever. Her feet never stop moving, and that's what we saw versus Navarro, which helped her move through and execute very well. And then you hit the semifinals, dropped that first set, but she had a big rally coming back in. Her serves were not there whatsoever, and we're kind of seeing that issue roll into the finals today. But where she came up strong was the fact that her response, she was able to come back and respond to every serve thrown her way with either a big forehand or a big backhand. This wasn't really much of a net battle for her. It was more just kind of forcing those long balls over and over and over again. So overhead, Paolini has versatility that she's able to deliver when she breathes, when she has the ability to kind of take a second to figure out where she needs to readjust her game. And hopefully we'll see her start to make some adjustments here. But if not, Krejcikova not only has the experience, but she's very, very smart and tactful at forcing her opponents to play her game.
And of course, if you want to be wagering on Wimbledon or anything, make sure you're using the SportsGrid app to stay on top of all the latest. And the latest right now, Krejcikova minus 450 live right now. Paolini plus 340 as we go to break again. We'll update you when we return on the women's Wimbledon final here. We'll also start to look ahead to the men's final tomorrow and some of the Euro and Copa final too. We've got a lot going on today. It's an international version of In-Game Live, so stick with us. We'll be right back right after this.
One of the many exciting things about joining Live was being able to come here and play in front of a Spanish crowd, especially on a level of event and level of competition that I hadn't really yet enjoyed, right? I've been able to play events in Spain.
Here in the beautiful Valderrama, which some say is the European Augusta, it's so special. There's so much history here. There's so much Spanish history here.
Well, it has so much history behind. It's only a 50 years old club, but so much has happened through the years. I mean, we had the Ryder Cup, we had World Gold Championships, and now we have Liv. It's
very exciting, and really, if there was ever a place to get my first win, I feel like this would be the perfect week.
This wind in this golf course is so difficult that it's equally stressful no matter when or where you're playing it. But it was fun. It's always fun to be back home and be with the home crowd. It's always a joy to have this many people supporting me all day. It's so much fun.
What the heck course were you playing today?
I don't know.
It's brutal out there.
It is brutal. I don't know. I just made everything I looked at, Jerry. You have those days. I suppose this was one of those days for me, so I really shouldn't. I really enjoyed it. Every time I stood over a putt, just felt like I could make it, and you don't get days like that too often, or certainly I don't. So I relished in it, and I managed to hit a lot of good shots as well. So it was a special day.
We are live here on SportsGrid for the women's Wimbledon final. Krejcikova is up 40 love right now, but Paolini gets on the board. It's now 5-2 overall in the first set. So Paolini getting on the board again, but finds herself once again behind once Krejcikova takes over the service. And that seems to be the theme today, Kasey, which is she doesn't have an answer so far for the Krejcikova serve. Would you agree with that assessment right now?
Yeah, I know sometimes when people are watching tennis or at least listening in, it feels like a broken record when you kind of continue to gravitate back towards the serve, but it's important for a reason. It's a tone setter for a reason. And if you're somebody like Chikova who can continue to stack points off of that serve, it is immensely important. And Paolini has to find a way to kind of stop letting her get into a rhythm here. And so she can not continue to take over the point quality. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, where Paolini can kind of battle her there is to continue to try to have those fast serves consistently. Now, that last game that she just won Paolini, a lot of that was contributed to the fact that she was coming in, I think, at about 172 with her speed on her serve. And that, I think overall in the tournament, she was sitting at about a 178. So she's got to try to stay up there. I know that wears at the arm a bit if you're looking at a long game or a long rally, but that is where she's going to have to try to take advantage of this game and of Krejcikova. So we'll see how Paolini tends to rally back in here. But you're right. It all comes back down to the serve, no matter how you slice it. And, well, we're seeing Krejcikova come up with some of those big slices as well. So Paolini's got to respond.
She does. 6-2, the final in the first set here. So some interesting odds I'm looking at live right now. Krejcikova to go 2-0 here, minus 185. But if you like Paolini to get on the board in this next one here, then you have Barbara Krejcikova 2-1 at plus 360. Do you think Paolini can stave this off and go to a third, or do you think Krejcikova so far has just been too dominant?
Even though Krejcikova has been so dominant, I can't imagine that Paolini won't be able to grab one here. Again, you're talking about two women who had very similar paths in making massive comebacks and being able to overcome being down in their games and kind of having to come back and command a set. So I don't want to count it out just yet, even though, you know, odds are favorably saying that Krejcikova is continuing to keep her foot on the gas. But Paolini is somebody who can kind of come back and re-strategize in that next part there. And I think that she has the ability to do that, to at least escape out of here with her statistics kind of starting to come up a bit more. It's going to take a lot more for Krejcikova to keep her foot on the gas than it is going to be for Paolini to readjust her game and start being more consistent in those speedy serves, as well as forcing it to her backhand and not allowing those slices to happen. So I kind of like it to be a 2-1 deal here if you want to sprinkle something on that.
Interesting enough, Jasmine Paolini 2-1 is plus 330. You're actually getting better odds for Krejcikova to win 2-1 at plus 360, which I think is a little odd considering how this has gone so far. So that might be the best bet on the board right now live. And that's why you're watching us here on SportsGrid, to get the best bets you possibly can. It's not the only thing going on today, by the way. Tomorrow we're going to have the men's final. We'll be back here again live right here, 9 a.m. Eastern, to cover that. But it's also a huge day in soccer. We have the Euro final and the Copa final. If you've been watching this, it's been absolutely spectacular, incredibly fun. Some real drama has been building here. We have Spain versus England, and that is going to be tomorrow. We're very excited about that here on the network. Spain right now, minus 172, the favorite. England at plus 142. England, another team, too, that has had a lot of drama, to say the least. Some of their games, if you were joining us here in-game live last weekend on Saturday, we were here live for that game, and England pulled it out yet again somehow. We got it right, too, and we made you a lot of money, which is why you're here on SportsGrid, to make sure we get that right. We had England in penalty kicks, and that ended up being a pretty good finish here for us. And I will tell you this, you've seen England time and time again kind of get behind and then have some incredible moments happen where things bounce their way. Kane had some big goals in these moments. Some others had some big goals in these moments, too. We can look at right now the player of the tournament odds you see before you. There's a lot of open season there for that. We'll get to that in a second here. But I want to go back to England and Spain, just generally speaking. Spain so far has been dominant. They're the favorite. England certainly has a striking ability. They seem to wait a little long here to get things going, and that seems to be their problem. It feels like this is a spot where you can't afford to do that against a team like Spain. I'm looking at a 2-1 Spain victory. That's what I'm looking for today, going ahead to tomorrow. That's kind of like my favorite bet. But I'm curious, when you've seen so far from Spain, from England, is it just as easy of like this is Spain's to lose at this point, or do you see England maybe this dramatic finish after finish kind of carrying over in this momentum to this final?
I want so bad to see that that I'm going to stand behind the drama, that England is just going to be England. Especially because one of my absolute favorite players, Saka from Arsenal, is there. But I just can't rely on England right now.
Yeah.
Their game and their ability to match with Spain is going to be an interesting one. They're coming in with a 3-4-2-1 format, which means they're very heavy in their midfield. So they do well taking away the center from their opponent. But where that's a problem is that Spain has speed, Spain has depth, Spain has the ability to go to the perimeter and still work their way up the field. Their shots on target, it's really hard to get a lot of shots on target for soccer. And I think sometimes people are like, well, the goal is this big. Regardless, it's getting those edges, it's getting through those defensemen and getting those opportunities. So England just stacks a little too heavy in their midfield. And then it forces them to kind of play so far back to where their strikers have to go and make immense effort. And lucky for them, Kane is one of their strikers and he's hard to keep off the board, but still he has a way to go when everything is happening in the middle of the field versus Spain that's heavy in the back and has so much support in the front and has the speed and has the depth. And they're looking to grab their 4th title for the Euro. And I don't want to go against England, but I got to lean towards Spain here. I do love the over 2.5 goals, though, when you're looking at a 2-1 opportunity. Spain's been hard to keep off the board. England's always found a way to sneak in there. So I do like that over 2.5 at plus money right now through 90 minutes.
Yeah, hour 2, we'll take a look at the Copa and kind of give our take on that too. Colombia and Argentina should be a really fun one. A different brand of soccer too that we've seen between the Euro and the Copa for sure. Much more physical game on the American side of things. When we come back, Kasey's going to walk us through some of her tips for betting on tennis because it might not be something everyone's comfortable with. So we want to make you more comfortable here on SportsGrid.
One of the many exciting things about joining Live was being able to come here and play in front of a Spanish crowd, especially on a level of event and level of competition that I hadn't really yet enjoyed, right? I've been able to play events in Spain.
Here in the beautiful Valderrama, which some say is the European Augusta, it's so special. There's so much history here. There's so much Spanish history here.
Well, it has so much history behind. It's only a 50 years old club, but so much has happened through the years. I mean, we had the Ryder Cup, we had World Gold Championships, and now we have Live. It's
very exciting, and really, if there was ever a place to get my first win, I feel like this would be the perfect week.
When this wind in this golf course is so difficult that it's equally stressful no matter when or where you're playing it. But it was fun. It's always fun to be back home and be with the home crowd. It's always a joy to have this many people supporting me all day. It's so much fun.
What the heck course were you playing today?
I don't know.
It's brutal out there.
It is brutal. I don't know. I just made everything I looked at, Jerry. You have those days. I suppose this was one of those days for me, so I really shouldn't. I really enjoyed it. Every time I stood over a putt, just felt like I could make it, and you don't get days like that too often, or certainly I don't. So yeah, I relished in it, and I managed to hit a lot of good shots as well. So it was a special day.
We are in set number 2 of the women's Wimbledon final, and Paolini takes the first game. So we're up 1-0 here for Paolini in the second set. And as we continue to look ahead here at our day of women's Wimbledon final, I want to talk to Kasey right now about some of the best practices when it comes to betting tennis, because betting tennis might not be as familiar to a lot of folks out there as it is the NFL or NBA and things that we are much more accustomed to here, but certainly a market where you can make some money. So Kasey, what are some of the best pieces of advice and tips you can give to people out there when you're looking to, get into a new market like tennis?
Absolutely. Fear less is the first lesson. No, I'm kidding. You gotta enjoy it like everything else. And one of the first major tips that I'll give you when you start looking at odds and numbers and players and best bets is that you've got to take into consideration what surface they're playing on. You've got certain players that are kings of the hard court and queens of the grass surface, but it plays a major role in how results can come about, because not every player, particularly actually most players, their game does not translate from surface to surface. That's a rarity for guys like Carlos Alcaraz can right now, and probably for this final, because both of these women are strong on clay as well as grass. So you'd always want to look at the surface they're playing on. You kind of want to look at their record and how consistent they are on that surface. Grass, it's faster. The balls bounce slower. Players have to have really strong serving skills and really good volley skills. Then you look at hard court, where things can just move extremely fast. So you see more powerful players that can react to the speed of the game and have high intensity and high pace. Then another thing you want to look at that kind of translates into the next tip is when you're looking at your match winner, surface plays a role into it, as I just mentioned. Weather conditions play a role into it, but massively injuries is another thing. If you've got somebody who's coming back from any sort of injury or irritation, stoppage on certain surfaces can play into their ability to respond and react in games, which can probably lean you towards looking at a different match winner. That's been a huge conversation heading into tomorrow's men's finals, because we know that Joker there is coming off of a meniscus surgery, and while it hasn't slowed him down, we'll see what happens over time versus an explosive player like Alcaraz. Something else that I love when it comes to tennis betting is sets. This is a fun one. So again, be fearless when you're heading into these kinds of things. I mentioned at the top of the segment here that when you're looking at sets, for instance, if it's a very neck and neck matchup, you kind of want to take a plus 1.5 set, especially for anything that just goes to 3 sets, because a player just has to pull off 1. So if you know that you're going to have an intense game, like watching Paolini kind of draw back in here, you're seeing confidence as things are moving through for her, then if she can pull off this set, that plus 1.5 in either direction is going to make you some money. And then when you see consistency across the board of players that have strong first sets and drop their second set, or for instance, have to feel out their opponent in the first set and bounce back in that second set, then you can make money easy on this and go for a second set winner at plus money or plus odds. And you'll probably see those lines fluctuate quite a bit as you get towards the end of tournaments or big title games. One thing I like to dabble in is when it comes to aces. Talked about that at the top of the segment as well. If you are looking at grass like we are today, and we know that serving plays a huge role in it, and you've got a strong server that can maybe pick up an ace or two, usually those ace totals are sitting at just over 2.5 between both players. That's something you can always have fun with and take a look at. Just quickly check their stats over the previous couple of games, see where their ace averages lie, take that over 2.5, because usually you're going to pick up a pretty easy chunk of change there. Double faults is another one that kind of goes hand in hand with aces. You'll see a lot of things gravitate towards the serving. And then another one is total games. You've got players that you know are very consistent at having a total of 13 to 15 games. For the men's, for instance, Alcaraz, he's somebody that's always sitting at about 20 plus games total. So if his total is sitting at 20.5 and you've seen him play a total of 23 games in the last 4 rounds, always something to take a gander at, so that you can also find another way to pick up some money and bet smartly when it comes to tennis.
Well, don't look now, folks, but Jasmine Paolini is making quite the comeback. She is up 2 games to none here, and playing hard and fast right now for her life, and the odds are moving along with it. If you're looking in-game live right now, Krejcikova 2-1 right now to win this match is at plus 170. It's gone down quite a bit from that 300 mark we were just discussing in our last segment. And Jasmine Paolini to win 2-1 is at plus 145. Very interesting here. Is Vegas telling us they think this comeback kid has got another one in her? Well, we'll talk about it when we come back. Hour 2 of our coverage here on SportsGrid for the women's Wimbledon finals. We'll continue on with Kasey Hudson and myself right after this break. Don't go anywhere. We've got a good one here.
One of the many exciting things about joining Live was being able to come